Happy Wednesday, all. Stoked today. I brought on realtor Brian. He is land broker down in South Carolina. He does a lot of double closes, and he's also an attorney, focusing more on the actual real estate side these days. So I'm going to bring him up in a minute. First, I want to actually just go over this real quick. So next week, actually 2 weeks from now, um, Land Insights V2 is actually going to be launching. So we're pretty friggin' stoked about this. This is V1 still. Everything, it's obviously great. We still have all our information here that we could get, pick markets and all that stuff. Still fantastic. V2 is just going to blow this out the water. With all the features that are coming up and everything like that, it's going to be insane. So starting next week, I'm going to do a couple weeks on this on Land Insights. We're going to pull data from V1 and then we're going to show you V2. I'm going to get early access to kind of show you guys the ropes of what it looks like. V2 is just like totally different. And there's stuff they've told me that later on, the other updates for V2 are just going to be game changing. So I'm so excited about that. So next week, tune in. We're going to pull some markets, price some data, and that's screw it. I'll give away some records next week. So hop on and we'll do some kind of contest and I'll give you guys some records. We'll pick a hot market and I'll give you whatever records I pull. I don't know, 10,000 records, 15,000 records, whatever it is, I'll give it away. So that'll be next week. So make sure you tune in. Super excited about it. So let's do this. Let's bring up Brian now. Brian, what's up, man? Tell me.
Hey, Dennis, what's going on?
Good, man. Just hanging out. I know we got some deals in title. Stoked about that. But
Yep, very excited. Yep.
I'm excited to have you on here. I know a couple guys that have some questions for you. But I'd love to get a little bit about, who you are, what you do, and kind of how we could work with you and all that stuff.
Sure. I've had a kind of diverse career. I was a practicing attorney for about 30 years down in Aiken, South Carolina. I had a varied practice, but I did a lot of real estate closings. I actually did real estate litigation as well. So then, as I like to say, I decided to leave the dark side of the force and came over to the real estate sales side, which is a lot more fun, a lot more interesting. People like realtors more than they do attorneys, so that's been good. So, I probably have about 5 investor clients I work with right now doing double closing. Some of them do assignments actually. And so I'm pretty well versed in it, both from dealing with my client as well as dealing with the person you may be buying it from and dealing with the third party customers as well. So anyone that has any questions, certainly let me know.
Awesome. Yeah, so we're working with Brian right now. I think we have 3 deals listed with you right now?
3 deals, yes. Mm-hmm.
3 deals listed with you right now. We're still working on some other ones that we're trying to get under contract. What's impressive, what I find the most impressive part about this whole process is basically we get the property under contract. Within 2 days, the property's listed. And I think the one property we have within, 8 days from contract to listing to sign contract again has been like,
correct, yep.
8 or 12 days or something like that?
Yep.
It's insane. So it was a buy for 46, and then we listed for 90. What do we
90 listed for 98 and have a contract for 91.
Perfect. In like 8 or 10 days, which is insane. And it just goes to show we found that market on Land Insights too. Just throwing that out there again.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's pretty impressive. It kind of speeds up the timeline. We talk about something a lot where one thing I talk about a lot is the cash conversion cycle, how long it takes from when you put your marketing out to how long you get paid back from that marketing. And when we work with people like you, it shortens our cash conversion cycle from a 6-month process. You could do this now in like 2 months or less. We're just working with the right realtor and somebody who's actually knowledgeable in it.
So for you guys out there, where you're looking at finding a realtor, number one, find someone that does maybe not exclusively land, because I don't do exclusively land, but someone that does a lot of land, because dealing with land is a different beast than dealing with houses. Okay. The other thing is, find someone that's willing to like work and get after it. I mean, I can't tell you how many realtors are, I don't know, they're not that serious. They do it kind of part-time, and time is money, as Dennis says. The longer it takes to get on market, that's just more possible buyers you're losing out on. So, if they can't get it on in 2 or 3 days, find someone else. There's enough realtors out there. But again, a lot of times I deal with buyers who have agents, and I can tell right away they don't do land. So find someone that does a lot of land deals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brian's awesome because I asked him to walk a 300-acre parcel with 2 houses on it. And I texted him on like a Thursday. I was like, hey, can you go check this out? He's like, yeah, no problem. On Saturday, he was there riding in a gator with the guy. If you're still working on that property.
I hope that one comes about, actually.
I do too.
I love that property. It's fantastic.
That was a beautiful property, honestly. I'm really stoked about that one. I'm still working the seller. He's nicest guy in the world. I think I pitched him at a cash offer of 1.1 or a seller finance offer at 1.3.
Yeah.
And he's down for it. It's his 2 sisters that we have to go back and forth with. So we'll see. I mean, value of that property, would you say it was like 1.8 around?
I would say yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So Michael, go ahead.
Yeah. So another thing, when you're dealing with people to obtain their property, a big question is, how to explain. Are you going to explain it's going to be a double close, or how are you going to deal with that? I'll just say that you kind of have to just judge your seller to see, because these days there's so much information out there. If you say, hey, I'm going to get this property, buy it from you 30 days, and then you go ahead and list it, a neighbor's going to say, hey, I saw your property on Zillow for $100,000, and if they're selling to you for 50, well, of course they're going to be upset about that. If you want to wait to market it until you close and have it, that's perfect. But if you want to go ahead and tell your client, hey, to be upfront.
Lost Brian for a second.
Oops, I get kicked out.
There you go.
Sure, just the best way to handle them.
Hang on, you're cutting in and out, man. Give 1 second.
Oh.
There you go. Now you're good.
You see me again? Hear me?
Yep, I see it.
Okay. All right.
So you're saying the best way to pitch it.
Yeah, it's if you're going to go ahead and market it right away, just be upfront with those people about that fact. Because if not, they're going to get upset. They're going to pull the deal, and you're just going to look bad in the end. And most times, most sellers are like, "Hey, we're going to pay you $50,000. Are you happy with that?" Yeah, I'm happy with it. Okay, if they're happy with what they're getting, then that's fine. But just be forthright with them.
Yeah, I agree. We try to. I'm going to mute you for a second while I'm talking. What we try to do is, whenever I'm talking to a seller, is I always tell them, hey, look, there's multiple different ways. We have multiple exit strategies. And sometimes what we do to facilitate a faster closing is sometimes we market the property beforehand just while we're figuring out our exit strategy. And what that allows us to do is keep our timelines tight, right? So if I can't figure out my exit strategy, whether it's to hold it, subdivide it, whatever the case may be, or build a house on it, but I have a buyer that wants to buy it, I can still get you the price we already agreed upon. Everything's going to go exactly the same. That's the route we're probably going to take. So sometimes we market properties just for that reason, but that's not always the case. So I explain it to them preemptively so I don't get those like worrisome calls or anything like that. They're like, hey, why do I see the market? Why do I see this on the MLS? I mean, 9 times out of 10, they actually won't see it on the MLS, but it's good to just kind of air that stuff out, especially when you're signing your contract and going over all that stuff, that you do have the right to market and all that stuff. Speaking from the attorney side of things, Brian, what are good things to put in a contract to establish that the boundary to allow yourself to, actually double close?
So I would include, again, for transparency, I would include language in there that states that whoever your company is, company XYZ, does have a right to market this property at this time. Again, they can't come back later on and say, hey, XYZ is trying to pull a fast one on me. Have that in the contract. I've got probably 4 or 5 investor clients I deal with, and they all do that, and that just makes it much better for everyone down the road.
Yeah.
So, another point I say, when you're, besides finding an agent, you need to find an attorney to handle these closings. I'll just say some attorneys don't really like doing the double closings. Some are okay. And just be forthright. Hey, we're gonna be doing double closing. Are you good with it? If they are, fine. If they're not, thanks for your time and find someone else. But ask that question up front before you're sending earnest money and setting them escrow and all that kind of stuff.
I love that. All right. I gotta to mute you every time I talk.
Good.
Let's see. So here's a question here, John. Do you have a specific part of South Carolina you do most of your deals in, or can you list double close properties anywhere in South Carolina?
So I told Dennis and his partner this. I have 2 teenage girls, and if you have girls, they're very expensive. So South Carolina has 46 counties, and I do all 46 counties. I'm in Aiken, which is kind of the middle of the state. But this week I spent part of a day down in the Charleston area, which is 2.5 hours away. And tomorrow I've got to go for Dennis. They have a property about an hour and a half away. Go up there. So, hey, again, find a realtor that's willing to hustle. Basically from the realtor side. You're going to put it on the MLS. Okay, so my properties are in the Aiken MLS. But that's going to be picked up by Zillow or Realtor, any of the sites. So the property's going to be out there. That's not a problem. Time-wise, I go to the property, I walk the property. If it needs to be marked, I mark it. If it needs photographs or drone shots, I do that. So find someone to do that. So basically, I'm only going to visit that property one time. So, most realtors, again, that are willing to work, be hungry, to spend half day traveling someplace to get business, I don't know why they won't. Again, a lot of realtors just don't want to work want easy money, but you can find people out there that's willing to work for you, trust me.
All right, so best ways to pitch a double close to an agent without the agent thinking that they're, it's a scam. I know obviously you're gonna have to talk to kiss a lot of frogs basically before you find one. But I mean, before I found you, we called probably 50 agents. And I just said basically, hey, look, I'm looking to buy property. We have it under contract. We have everything, our wording that allows us to list it. Are you open to doing that? And you were like, yeah, of course.
And I think, Dennis, part of that is, since I was a lawyer for 30 years, I know that it is legal in South Carolina. I know there may be a few states that have issues with it. I think maybe for some agents that don't know that, they're a bit more nervous. Again, I think if you call people that do a lot of land, it's kind of more prevalent in the land market than it is the housing market. I know people do it in the housing market, but I think if it's a land agent, they're going to understand it more. But again, if they say, no, I don't want to do it, fine, thanks for your time, and call the next person. And find agents who have teenage daughters, because they need the money more than other agents do. So they're more willing to take it. So
I love it. Okay, so let's see. Do you recommend working with novice agents or newer agents when it comes to this type of closing? I mean, my gut feeling is you're going to probably want to work with, or seasoned agent or a novice agent, right? I'm going to say you probably want to work with a seasoned agent, somebody who actually understands the whole MLS background, the code, the real estate code and everything like that. They just understand it. I feel like that's the kind of person you want to work with. You don't want to work with some new young gun that's going to just fall into pitfalls. But yeah.
Yeah. So Dennis, my broker and I were just talking about this fact. In most states, the entry to become a real estate agent is very, very simple. I mean, you take whatever course you want to do and a test that most people can easily pass the test. So it's pretty simple to become a real estate agent. So, you want to get someone that's seasoned, that kind of been around. And again, I know I said 2 or 3 times, dealing with land and dealing with houses are two very different things. Like, I know agents that have been selling houses for 30 years, they don't want to do land. They don't understand land, and they don't know what a perk test is, and that's just not their forte. So find someone that has a little experience that knows what they're doing.
Awesome.
Awesome.
For Augusta, Georgia, I mean, obviously Aiken's on the border. Do you work Georgia? I know you're licensed in Georgia, but do you work there as well, or do you have recommendations for there?
Yeah, I do work the Augusta area. I know the Augusta market, so I do that. Now, if any of you out there need a referral for a good agent, whether it be in Georgia or anyplace else, let me know, and I'll find an agent for you that knows what they're doing. Dennis and his partner just last week had a deal up in the mountains of North Georgia, and that mountain property is kind of unique upon itself. I said I could do it. I don't feel comfortable, but I found a guy that did double closings and knows what he's doing. So it cut down the legwork for them. So certainly feel free to reach out to me, and I'll help you find someone that knows what they're doing.
Awesome. Real quick. So I just want to mention this, guys, real quick. This is the kind of stuff we talk about inside Leah all the time. So if you guys are interested in joining Leah, there's no hesitation. Book a call with Justin, and you go to this site right here. You can hop on there. You can book a call with Justin and then hop in there. What we do inside Leah is we talk about all this stuff all the time, and we have smaller private groups inside there, which is like a group coaching. It's Leah members only, and those people there, like, this is like the high level stuff we talk about all the time. So if you guys are interested in that kind of stuff, definitely book a call with Justin. Hop on there, have a chat, and then we'd love to see you guys in there. The smaller groups are definitely tighter niche, and you're dealing with people that are doing like 8 figures. So I'm bringing Brian here because I wanted you guys to all kind of see like the type of person that we work with all the time inside Leah. This is like the caliber of agent and type of people we work with. And you can work with them too. So we're going to get Brian's info at the end, but let's get some more questions going. So Brian, how would you find those realtors? Okay. So Brian, how would you find those realtors? How can we get in contact with Brian? Obviously, we're gonna share your info. But what's the best way when looking for a double close agent? What's the best way? Would they go through you? And then you would find those people in different markets, or is it best to say like, hey, go here and look for X, Y, and Z?
Okay, so last week when you guys needed an agent someplace else, I went to several different land websites and looked to see who the agents were, and I was able to find out how many transactions, how many years they've been in business. Okay, so that let me know, okay, these guys are knowledgeable about what's what. And then I simply called, and luckily the first one I called was willing to do it. I called and said, hey, just ask them, are you familiar with double closings? Because if they are familiar, then you don't have to educate them. A lot of them will not be familiar with that. And so you can still say, okay, double closing says, I'm going to buy this property at an agreed to price, a contracted price with a willing seller. Then I want to go ahead and market this property, to make a profit on it. Some agents, again, they see stuff on TV or the news and they're like, I don't want to get involved with that. Again, just say, thank you. But that's how I would do it. Or if you want to do the legwork yourself, one, go to some of the different land sites and find someone that's been in business for a long time and does land. Would be the best way to do it. Or again, call me and I'll be more than happy to reach out and find. A lot of times I can know how to navigate to find those things quicker than you guys can.
All right, so it's kind of like a pretty girl posting a picture online. You're going to probably get a lot of dudes sending you inappropriate pictures now. So here's one thing, guys. Don't hit up Brian and just be like, hey, Brian, can you give me a CMA on this property? Hey, Brian, can you do this for me? Hey, Brian, can you? You're going to inundate him. Don't do that. If you have a property that looks like it's a decent property and you think you get under contract or it is under contract, that's when you reach out to Brian. Don't just call him just to say, hey man, you're doing great. Can you just take a look at this one? don't go sending him all those properties because that's just wasting his time. Let's treat people who actually, work with us and do this stuff at a high level. Like, let's treat them really well. So please don't just go sending dick pics to Brian and stuff like that, in a real estate term. So please.
So while you're on the question of CMAs, Dennis and his guys actually don't want me to send a full CMA, but to me, a serious agent, you call and say, hey, I find out about, the 25 acres on Columbia Highway. It doesn't take that agent 20 minutes to write a CMA, show you the 3 comps, show you, what they sold at and how long they were on the market. Because you can find agents that say, hey, do you think we could list this for $100,000 and sell it? Yeah, man, we can do that all day long. No problem, no problem. Well, he doesn't know if it's a problem or not. So another investor of mine contacted me yesterday and said, hey, 25 acres, has a pond on it. We're going to buy it for this. Is that a good deal? And I did the CMA and sent it to him. Like, no, that's kind of market value. There's no value to that property. So where I could easily just say, oh yeah, no problem. We can list it for twice that much and sell it. Because then they get frustrated. It's wasted their time. It's wasted the agent's time. It's wasted everyone's time. So again, if someone can't spend 15, 20 minutes doing a CMA, you don't want to use that agent.
Yeah, and that's it. It's so true. I mean, I agree 100%, but I know a lot of people will send you deals that are probably not deals. If you can't do the grassroots investigation where you're looking at this and saying like, all right, I have a contract, I'm going to send it to him for 50. I see a couple comps in the area that are like 100, but I see one that's 70. Let me just send it to Brian and see what he gets his idea of. So that's what I'm talking about. If you see your offers like 50 and you see comps are like 40, don't send it to Brian. Don't waste his time. So this is from Dave. Hey, can you go over what you were telling your buyer's agent? So the buyer side, now the second side of the transaction, this is going to be, you're the person going to be mostly dealing with that. What are you telling the buyer's agent when they get an offer on one of your listings that you're double closing? Sometimes the buyer gets spooked off that you're not on title.
I have had that happen a couple of times where a prospective buyer did get spooked out. But again, you say, okay, it's a double closing because buyers are knowledgeable enough to say, hey, I looked this up and this is owned by Joe Smith. It's not owned by who's on the contract. What's up with that? At the onset, I'll tell another agent, or if it's an individual, tell the individual, hey, my client has a valid assignment. In some cases, I'll even say, if you'd like me to send you the assignment, now we scratch out all the price stuff on it. But if it makes you feel better to see the assignment, I'll send it to you to make you feel better. Some agents that don't understand double closings get a little apprehensive. The agents, though, usually go along with it because they want a commission. So it's more so their clients that might be a little hesitant. But that is going to happen to you. Sometimes you're going to have prospective buyers that get spooked and may just back away. Guess what? If it's good enough property for them to be interested in, there's be another buyer out there for you.
Exactly. So we had a property that we actually we got under contract and listed it with Brian, but what happened was Aaron was working the property. The person Aaron was working, the seller themselves actually had a mediator. The mediator was another agent. So the mediator had access to the MLS. They read the contract, they saw all the stuff, everything. Well, the mediator ended up seeing the property listed and called Aaron. And he was like, dude, what the heck? She's like, what the hell? Why is this property listed for more than we agreed upon? And Aaron was like, So I told him what to say and everything like that. And, basically they were pretty pissed off because we were trying to get a price drop because we figured, okay, it does have some interest. There is some traction. We could probably just buy this and still be in a good spot. But we needed to kind of drop the price a little bit just to give us a little wiggle room, right? Because it was a questionable property. We had comps that were all over the place, right? So we ended up just pulling that listing down, canceling the contract. Now, the seller and the agent actually reached out to us the next day and they were like, hey, they were still kind of pissed, but they're like, would you still do X, Y, and Z? They basically wanted us to still go forward with the contract, but at that lower price. I mean, at their original price. And we just stood our ground and said no. More than likely, we'll probably get that deal back at some point, I would say, because if they didn't go through the marketing channels prior, they're not going to go through the marketing channels now. So more than likely, they're going to call us back for the lower price, and that's something Aaron has to follow up on. I actually should tell him, Aaron, if you're watching this, call that seller again, and just touch base with them, because more than likely they're probably going to end up coming back to us. So these things will happen. You will get some that will fall out, and I don't think it's the end of the world. You just kind of have to be present of mind.
There's plenty of deals out there to be had. So if it's a bad deal or a deal that just seems this doesn't smell right, just dump it. There's other deals out there. So Aaron just
Lost him again. So I'm just going to go over this one real quick. So Antonio, so we have a separate listing agreement together with the purchase agreement. Is it possible that we can just add the marketing clause? So Antonio, we have on our agreement, we have in one of the lines, it says buyer has the right to market the property on the MLS and any other, whatever. And also that says the buyer has the right to assign the property, right? That's what it says on our thing. So yeah, so we have that listed right in our contract. Now, just to clarify, guys, when you're sending direct mail, and this is something we talked about big inside Leah the other day as this topic came up. When you're sending your direct mail, if you're sending a 2-page with a contract, do not put buyer has the right to assign and buyer has the right to double close on the property, whatever the case may be. You don't have to put double close, whatever. Don't put that in the purchase agreement when you're sending it out to sellers as a blind offer, because guess what? They're not going to call you. It's not going to happen, because they're going to be like, why would I sell to Dennis when he's going to just assign it to somebody else? I'll just sell to somebody else that doesn't have this clause in there. So make sure when you guys are sending your blind offers, you don't include verbiage for assignment. I never open escrow with the contract I actually send out. The contract I send out is just showing that I mean business. When I talk to the seller comes in, and then I say, hey, Mr. Seller, we're looking to purchase the property X, Y, and Z. Okay, good. I'm good with 40,000. You're good with 40,000. Great. Let's do this. I'm going to send you a contract, and I'm going to go over it real quick. And then I give them the whole 1, 2, 3, go over the entire contract, explain line by line. If they have any hesitation about any of those lines, I remove it right then and there if it's going to be a hesitation, or I just explain it. If there is any issues or whatever the case arises, obviously we'll talk about it, but I want to get on the phone and talk to them. I don't want to, unless it's all right. So let me just caveat this. If it's a property that's like a clear winner, like a buy for 40, sell for 120, I'm closing that thing. I'm not going to double close it. I'm buying it. Absolutely. No doubt in my mind. But if it's a property where it's questionable, it's like a buy for 40, sell for like 60 ish, maybe, you don't even know, then I would definitely make sure I have the double close verbiage in there. Explicit mentions. Let's see. So let's see. Okay. Do you have explicitly mentioned MLS listings? I have this in my contract. Assignment rights: buyers the right to market the property and assign the property to a third party if it so chooses. Yeah, that's good for a buyer has the right to market. So I put buyer has the right to market on any platform, including but not limited to the MLS, and assign the property to a third party if it so chooses. So yes, you're fine with that. I would definitely add something that they could list it on the MLS and all that stuff. And this one too, how do you explain assignment to the seller on the phone? So this is exactly how I'll say it verbatim. Hey, Mr. Seller, hey, look, there's sometimes, so I'll go through the contract number 5 on my contract. Hey, sometimes what we do with assignment, so I don't know if you know what assignment means. Basically, assignment means I'm allowed to sell it to another investor, another person, or myself. Basically, I sign the contract as Cash for Land USA. Okay. When I sign that contract, sometimes I want to close it under American Homestead Acres, which is my other company, right? So sometimes what I have to do is I have to assign that contract to keep it valid to transfer it to that other person. Or sometimes I have other investors who maybe want to build a house. Maybe they want to do something different than I originally planned. And I'll assign that contract to them for a small fee. So that's just kind of how we do the business. Sometimes my exit strategy is different than their exit strategy. So what I like to do is have the ability to then assign it if need so. So I kind of explain it like that. It's very non-confrontational. I don't tell them I'm assigning it to make money, whatever the case may be. I kind of just explain it that in order to keep the timelines that we agreed upon, if they want 30 days, I might have to assign it to somebody else to keep that, right? That's pretty much what I kind of like pitch. Brian, is your audio good? Is your audio good, Brian? Can you hear us? Solid. Hey, Brian, can you hear us or no? Let me try doing this. You ready? Hey, Brian, can you hear us? And then I'll take this and I'm going to go show. Hey, Brian, can you hear us? And see what he says. Maybe not. All right. So while he's getting back on, so what other questions you guys have for all this stuff? Hey, I can't hear you. Okay. There you go. Let's see. Edit mic settings. Let's remove at the stage. Better now, Brian? Let me tell him. May have to leave and join back. Okay, I'd be curious to hear how Brian would pitch an agent new to it all. Okay, I'll ask him that. He's gonna leave and join back. So yeah, so what's pretty cool with this guy, I actually, if you look back like 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe 4, I started calling a bunch of agents. We had a deal, and we had a deal. So I called a bunch of agents. Brian's actually one of the guys that I called right at the end of the call, and hopped on there and I started talking. I told him, "Hey, look, this is what I'm looking to do. Are you open with it?" And he was like, "Yeah, absolutely." So right then and there, I'm like, "All right, this guy's great." And then we put him to the test. We sent him a few deals. He sent us CMAs. We got offers. We sent CMA. Yeah, he sent CMAs, and we're like, "Great, let's list one." We listed it, had traction like right away. I'm like, "Okay, this guy knows what he's doing." So, pretty stoked about that. All right, there he is. All right, hear us now, Brian?
I'm good. Thanks, man.
Yeah, perfect. No more echo either. That's awesome. Okay, so one question they had, Ari is asking, I'd be curious to hear how Brian would pitch an agent new to it all.
Okay, how I pitch the agent to it is to say, hey, I'm going to buy a property, but I need you to sell it. I need someone who's going to be comfortable with this and someone that can get on it right away. Again, some agents are going to be apprehensive about this. The ones that are hungry are going to be willing to do it. Although you have to watch out. Again, I was saying just the yes man to everything. Yeah, I can get you whatever price you want. Well, no, he can't get whatever price you want. He can't do that. Again, I know I keep saying it. Someone that's been in the business for a while is going to know what a double close is. There's different facets of double closing go, but if they've been in the business for a while, they should have some familiarity with that. Because when I was practicing law, I had people do double closings. Again, some attorneys don't want to do double closings. And so somebody could reach out and find attorneys that are willing to do that. So there is no try to true. Again, just be upfront with them, forthright. Say, hey, this is what I want to do. Can you help me? Yes or no? Yes, great. Let's make some money. No, that's fine too.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Yeah, and that's kind of how we asked you. We're like, "Hey, Brian, are you open to doing this?" And you're like, "Yeah." I'm like, "Well, that's easy. Let's do it."
Yeah, you're kind of shocked when I say, "Yeah, no problem." I've got several other clients I do it with. So
that's perfect. Yeah, we had called a bunch of people and we just kept getting no, 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 no. That's illegal. That's illegal. That's illegal. And then when you're like, "Yeah, I'll do it. I'm also an attorney," and I'm like, "Well, perfect."
So what people are confused about in South Carolina, most states, if it's a situation where you're buying it for 50 selling it for 80, and you want to close simultaneously and never bring in your capital to the game. Okay, I'm not going to bring in money. I'm going to use that 80 to finance the 50. You can't do that, and no one's going to do that. But just say, hey, I'm bringing capital. I'm going to wire money to the lawyer's escrow account or the closing company's escrow account. It's my money. Then I'm going to turn around and sell. That's not illegal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's we call that pass-through funding or B2C A to B. So in certain states, it's fine. In South Carolina, it's kind of one of those like frowned upon things with pass-through funding. So that's where you kind of have to bring transactional lending in. Some title companies and attorneys will do it, but it's less and less prevalent than it used to be, right? That used to be something like I've been wholesaling for a long time, and we used to wholesale houses before 2008, and we would do it all the time. And now, ever since like then, it's just like it's getting less and less. I mean, we still do it in like North Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, Florida, other areas, but not always.
And Dennis, you made a good point. A lot of times it's the title insurance companies that say, no, we're not going to do that. And
Yes.
if a buyer is going to be financing, they have to have title insurance. So another point, and you may have touched this already. If you have a good deal, sounds good, do a little research or get your lawyer to do a little research. Make sure there's not a title issue to it. So I've got to deal with another investor where great deal. Hey, we're all going to make a lot of money. And it came to find out, well, there's actually two other people involved with this deal.
Mm-hmm.
So we had to track down these people. One of them was willing to do the deal. The other was not. Well, the whole thing fell apart. So we all put a lot of time, effort into it, and got nowhere. So do a little upfront digging on your end to find out beforehand.
Yeah. That just goes to show like you need to have some kind of like, does this have clear marketable title before you go listing it, right? So if you start working in a state and you start working with a lot of like the same type of attorneys or closing title companies, whatever, you could start asking for a preliminary title search.
Right.
And what that does is that's just, they call it surface level, prelim, whatever the case may be. And they just make it sure, hey, John Smith owns this property and it's just John Smith. Or they might say, hey, John Smith and Susie Smith own this property. Or they might say like John Smith, Susie Smith, but Bobby Smith has an interest because they inherited it from X, Y, and Z. Well, if that's the case, then you can't list that contract as a double close. But if it's just Bobby Smith and Susie Smith, you could do that. You just got to get the second signature from Susie, and then you could list it, right?
And here's something that come up. Okay, you go to the tax assessor site and see Bobby Smith is on the tax assessor site. So you assume Bobby Smith owns the property. Well, if Bobby's dad, John, died and Bobby was the executor, they put Bobby down as a person that's who they send the tax bill to. Bobby may not have closed probate.
Nope.
So Bobby has no ownership interest, even though he gets the tax bill. So again, just because the tax assessor's office says a name doesn't mean they have ownership or full ownership. At least in South Carolina, they only put one name on the tax bill. There could be 13 heirs there.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that all the time. We had a property where the guy was like, well, I've been paying the bill for like 70 years. I was like, yes, your great grandfather passed you the property, but now he had 13 kids. So each one of those kids had equitable interest. They all passed away. Now each of those kids had equitable interest. Just because you're the one that's getting the bill and you're the one that's paying it does not mean that's your property. It doesn't work like that. And he didn't understand it. We actually never went through it. This is North Carolina. We never went through the deal because it was like to the point where it was like 40 something heirs. And we would have had to get signatures basically from all those heirs. It was kind of crazy. So another quick question I have for you with that, and this kind of goes in hand with that. We have a property that we're trying to buy, but the seller actually bought it from her mother on a quick claim deed. And we went to purchase it. And the other attorney, this is North Carolina, the other attorney we were working with, he said that we can't purchase it because it's a quick claim deed. So she technically does not own it. She did purchase the property from her mother because her mother was in foreclosure. She bought it from her. She owns it. Her name is on title, and the title chain does show it. But there's a chink in the title essentially because it goes from mom, quitclaim deed. It's not a general warranty deed. Something like that. When that type of issue arises, how do you deal with that? One and two, obviously that's something that you can't double close, right? Because there's a chink in the title.
Right. You don't want to buy into a problem.
Right.
So that's going to be where you're going to get your attorney to look at the situation, and then maybe his title insurance company to look at the situation too. Because if you don't have good enough title for a buyer to buy it, who's going to get a loan, who's going to have title insurance, then you bought a bunch of dirt that you're stuck with. So again, that's going to be a question that you ask your attorney, hey, is this what's called marketable title? Is this marketable title on this deal? Again, if there's not, as Dennis and Aaron have seen, there's other deals to be had. So no need to get in bed with a bad deal.
Yeah. Is there a way to convert a quitclaim deed to a warranty deed?
So in most states, there is a way. If you have title defects, and it goes back, Dennis, your question about having 51 heirs.
Yeah.
If it's and I've got one of these right now with another investor. The profit margin is enough that you can get a lawyer to file a judicial action to clear up the title. And what that lawyer is basically going to do is file an action. Okay, Tom Smith's been paying taxes all this time. He's been acting as the owner of the property, but there's all these heirs. They run a notice in the newspaper to any potential heirs out there. They set a court date. If no one shows up, Tom Smith is granted ownership of the property by the judge. And actually, a judicial deed is actually better than any other deed. When the judge has said it's Tom Smith, it's his. In South Carolina, it's going to cost someone $5,000 to $6,000 to do it. But if the profit's going to be $50,000, well, that's 5%, 10% to put into it to get the deal done.
Yeah, this one we have is almost $100,000 profit, and she can't sell it anywhere else unless we actually go through it. So it's kind of like you just have to do it. Is there a difference between quiet title and judicial deed?
Quiet title is the actual action you bring, and then judicial deed is what the judge is going to do. In some states, they actually issue a deed. In South Carolina, they actually issue a court order, and that order is filed in the county in the deed book. So different states are going to do different ways.
Yeah.
A quiet title. In some states, it can be called an action to clear title. Different states will have different names for that. You call your attorney, and then he's going to understand what it is. But yeah, if it's a small profit deal, it's not going to be worthwhile because again, that action is going to take at least 6 months to go through. So do you want your money tied up during that time? You have to weigh that too.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. All right. Can I see this? Let's see. What is seller contract? At what point do you inform your seller that you want to close? So, all right, this is kind of like a good question. So, at what point do you inform your seller that you're going to close after the end of your buyer's Indigo's card? So, for me personally, this is the way I look at this whole double close business. Right, I want to get it listed once I know I have clear title. I want to list it, okay, or I have some kind of like clear title. I want to get it listed. Now, when I see we have gauged interest, like, and I'm looking at this, and we have a lot of views, a lot of people going to look at the property, and maybe even some offers within that 21-day window of us getting a contract, getting it listed. If I'm gaining a lot of traction, we're going to close on the property because I'm seeing like, okay, a buyer's going to come on this property pretty quickly. If I'm after like 21 days, I don't see any action, then I got to weigh the options. Okay, is this worth closing? Is this worth making sure I have a longer timeline horizon in my contract with the seller so I can let it sit on the market for 90 days? Or is it worth just canceling the contract, separating, and that's that, right? So that's kind of how I run it. Everybody's going to have a different kind of threshold. Like the one property we have now that we have the offer on, we're actually going to buy that property because there's such a big spread, and we already have a signed contract to close on the other side of it. So our lender's like, yeah, let's do it. That's fine. It just makes sense, right? It's 10 points for the lender, so it's really not that much money. You're talking about $4,500 from the lender side of things, and that's just going to make sure the deal doesn't get muddied up. So 4,500 to make 30 grand, totally worth it, right? That's the way we look at it. Now, everybody's different. Everybody doesn't have the same type of funding partners or whatever the case may be. So you might have to go and say, okay, I'm getting some interest. Let me tell the seller that I need to extend my contract by 30 days or whatever the case may be. You're good. As far as EMD going hard, if your contract is stated and written the right way, your EMD should never go hard. Okay. So the way I write my contract up, I always write that my inspection period is the entire length of escrow until closing occurs. And then I have a second line. On that second line, it states EMD never, EMD is 100% refundable until close of escrow. Okay. Because of that, when the one reflects on the other, it actually basically says your EMD is always refundable. Obviously, if I locked up a seller up for 90 days and I put $100 EMD, I'm going to give them the $100. Whatever. It's not the end of the world. But you got to think about that too. Also, put your EMD. I don't know. Don't put like $10,000 as your EMD. Whoever's doing that is crazy. Put like $100. It's money that you don't care if you lose. That's the way I look at it. Don't go putting $10,000 stupid stuff just to try to get a contract, whatever. We're not scorching earth here. It's different. Just get the contract signed. EMD is just showing that there is consideration made for the contract, and that's that. That's all you need legally to bind a contract. Let's see what else. Brian, any other tips for us? I'm going to look for more questions while we got that.
Yeah. On that same thought, Dennis, I have found with my clients to extend the closing date. Most sellers will agree to that. I've never had a seller not agree to it because the mindset is this: you've agreed to pay this guy $45,000. That money in his mind is spent. Okay, I'm gonna get that new boat. I'm getting that ride lawnmower. That money's spent. And so if he's got to wait another 30, 45 days, he's going to do it. Do you find that, Dennis, that most sellers are willing to extend?
Yeah, I teach that all the time because the way I look at it is in the seller's perception, they're just like, you told them $45,000 for this property. Now they've already spent that money. They're already like, all right, the car is going to cost me $35,000. I have enough for the cruise and then $5,000.
Right, exactly. Yep.
Let's go. Now this works two caveats, right? One, the extension, but two, you have to negotiate a little bit if you find any negatives about the property. If you've already entered a contract and you go to 45 and then you find some like deficiencies or whatever on the property, going back to them and saying, hey, look, X, Y, and Z came up. We have two options. One, I could cancel, or two, we could drop the price. If you say that word, the cancel word, they're going to be like, well, I want to buy that truck. I could still buy the truck. Right. I just don't go on the cruise. So they it definitely helps with that. So that was awesome. Dave was asking actually on this end, the buyer's EMD, the other side. So if it's a buyer's EMD, refund the money, especially if there's an issue with the title, refund the money. That's obviously, you're always going to refund the money. Is that what you're talking about? Do you offer an EMD on your contract? Okay, so there's a debate, Brian, and this is a good question for you. Having an EMD on your contract, is it necessary to make it a legal binding contract? Because a lot of guys on land, they don't offer any EMD. I personally put it on there, but I keep it at such a low amount just because consideration is what makes it a legal binding contract.
Exactly right. Yep. Yeah. When you're in law school, your first week of law school, you learn what makes a valid contract. It's offer, it's acceptance, it's consideration. That consideration can be $10, but you have to have something on there. And again, if you're not making it, don't make it $10,000, but $500, $100, whatever. Make it so you're at least halfway serious to the person.
Yeah.
But you have to have that on there.
Yeah. You have to have consideration because if not, it's not a legal binding contract. Now your consideration could be $2. It doesn't matter, right? Something of monetary value. That's really what it is. Basically saying like, I am willing to purchase this property and I'm so willing that I'm going to give you my 2 golden gooses. That's basically your consideration, right?
Yeah.
If you do one, now here's the thing. If you do sign a contract without an EMD, All that does is basically say, if there's anything that happens with this contract, you have no ground to stand on as far as it goes forward. So, like, if you have to send a cure notice because the buyer disappears, or you want to file a memorandum, if you never had an EMD wording in your contract and you never sent an EMD, you have no leg to stand on when it comes to making the buyer or the seller fulfill that contract. All right. So, what else do we have? Brian, I want to get your shoot, I have a property under contract with no EMD. Hopefully the owner's not watching this. Yeah, so if you have a contract that doesn't have an EMD, it's not the end of the world. It's more of like a preservation just to make sure like something doesn't happen, right? Something happens, it sucks.
Right. If they try to get out of it, you don't have the EMD on, they're going to be able to get out of it. Now, most times that's not going to occur because, again, they didn't enter into that contract unless they wanted, the money at the end of the day. So,
right. But if they got an offer that's $5,000 more than you, they could technically cancel because you don't have any consideration.
Correct.
And you have no leg to stand on to say like cure notice, let's get out of here. It doesn't work like that. You can't do it.
Correct.
So, all right, Brian, let's get your contact info. Do you want me to type it in the chat or you want to type it in here?
Yeah, if you want to type it, I'm not sure how to type it in here, but yeah, it's basically my name, Brian. B-R-I-A-N.
Not Brain.
Not Brain. No, some people do that. And then it's Catonic. Just if you call me, it's like a vodka tonic. Take the vod off. You got it. So it's Katon as in Nancy, AK at Gmail. And then the telephone is 803 221
803 221
5945. And I always have my phone with me. It's kind of interesting, Dennis. I had a pretty successful law practice, just was kind of done with it. I worked a lot more hours as a real estate agent than I did as a attorney, but I like it a lot more. Yep. As a lawyer, no one's calling me Saturday night at 8 o'clock. No names, Aaron. So
yeah, Aaron is if you guys remember, Aaron came on here a couple times. I did like a coaching call with him one time and all this stuff. And Aaron started this business probably like January 1st, and he's already got his first like $30,000 deal. So he's crushing it, and it's just a matter of we pick the right markets. We use Land Insights to pick the right markets. We found the right people. He's in the right groups. And then we found Brian, and Brian's really helped him like move the needle really fast. Brian, all this is right. Brian Catonic at gmail.com, 803-221-5945, right?
Yep, that's right. If you have any properties in South Carolina, or if you need help finding an agent at another state, feel free to call me. I'm more than happy to help you guys out.
Yeah, so John Stark is actually going to call you. He's got it's funny. He's like, thank you so much, Brian. I'll wait till tomorrow to call you because I know you're going to have like 30 calls right after this. That's definitely true. But I think John said he's got two deals that he's going to send you in Aiken, so that's perfect.
Fantastic.
And I think somebody else said that they had some deals as well.
Yep.
You're definitely going to hear from some people.
Good. And again, when I do the CMAs, I'm going to be very honest with you. So Aaron sent me 2 yesterday. He was very excited with, and came back, and one of them I just said it's not a good deal. He said, "Real?" I'm like, "Nope, it's not a good deal." The other one, the other one, will see the property tomorrow. So again, whether me or pick another agent, they're just saying, I'll sell it for whatever you want. No, that's not right. I mean, he's got to, look at the market and see what that market is going to bear, or it's going to be a big waste of time for you.
Yep, that's what it is. It's so hard. Like, and I'm trying to explain that to Aaron too. Like, you have to look at all the deals and look at all the comps and everything like that. And we talked to a couple agents, and the couple agents that we talked to were like, "Yeah, I could sell it for this. I could sell it for that." But they're just telling you what they want to hear, what they want you to hear, so that you get excited. You already start spending your money mentally, just like we say with sellers. And you're like, I could already do this. I'm going to make this much money. But then the deal actually doesn't go through. And then they just keep dropping the price. And guess what happens? The agent still gets their money. They a lot less, but they still get something when it actually sells. Whereas Brian is like, hey, it's not a deal. This is why, X, Y, and Z. If you do this to improve the property, which you gave us some really good insight on a couple properties, then it could be worth X, Y, and Z. But you have to take in your risk factor, your holding time, your time factor, all that stuff. There's other areas you have to kind of look at.
And that agent you get, he's going to give you a price. Make sure he then goes out right away. Now you're going to want the price right up front. Okay, so he says, okay, $100,000, great. But then, for instance, this property we're going to do in Abbeville County, I'm going to go see it tomorrow. Now, that property may have a severe slope. That property may be next to a meth lab. That property may have some issues. I'm going to come back and say, no, you have to readjust this price. It's because you can't see those things online. You have to see them on the ground.
Yeah, we actually, I had a power line easement on the back corner, and I brought it up to the seller. I said, hey, just a heads up. We might have to reduce the price on this because there's a power line easement running through the back. I said, a lot of people don't want to buy a property because of EMFs. And he's like, my wife is one of those people. Perfect. Right. So I said, look, we might have to look at this and might have to adjust the price to like $17,000 or something like that, just to accommodate, because basically when we build a house, we have to lower the price and all that stuff. And he's like, yeah, I don't think I can do that. Okay. So I already tried, but once you see it and you actually get boots on the ground, then it's like more of like a, dude, we've actually seen the property. We know what we're looking at now. And here's the deal. So, yeah.
You're going to find that, especially if you're in coastal areas. So I've got a listing. I told my people, hey, $130,000. I went down to it. It's totally wetlands. I mean, it's not worth anything. So it's though ironically, I just got a call, a turtle conservation group may want to buy. I said it's perfect for turtles. So that comes up, contact turtle groups. Maybe they'll buy that property. So.
Right. Yeah. For all you turtle lovers, there you go. We have property for you. Awesome, dude. Jeff, I really appreciate you coming to hang out with us. This is great.
Yeah, it was fun. Absolutely.
I'm sure you're going to get a lot of people calling in, stuff like that. So if you can, make some connections and like the whole East Coast.
Good.
A lot of people work East Coast. So if you know any good agents, North Carolina, South Carolina, obviously that's you. Georgia, Florida. A lot of people work the Tennessee, Kentucky, Alabamas, all that stuff. So if you have any good agents that you might know, or whatever the case may be,
right,
get some referrals, because we're looking for good people, and we're already doing enough trying to find deals. If you can find the agents for us, that's all referrals for you. So
right. And then there's deals that to be had, and there's good money to be made in this field. There really is. So, so don't get frustrated. Stick with it.
Yep, exactly. And Brian is really smart with subdivisions too. We talked about doing some minor subdivisions. We have that 50-acre that we're taking a look at.
Yep.
And I think Aaron's got a call with him this week or next week, whatever the case may be. That might be a really good deal that I think will chop up into 7-acre lots. So
right, we talked about that.
Yeah. So awesome. All right, guys, I'm done with you today. It's been real, Brian. I appreciate it again. Definitely take down his information, guys. Cool. We'll talk soon. Later.